Hey, weavers of light, welcome in. I hope that you're all doing well. I have to apologize for me being missing in action. The last couple of weeks, I felt the need to honor my mother's transition. So, with that being said, let's get to the message. So, what is self love versus ego love? Soul led self love emerges from the recognition of the divine within. It is deeply compassionate, humble, and aware. It seeks wholeness and alignment, not superiority. It honors boundaries, worth, joy, and truth. It is expansive and it overflows and uplifts others. This kind of self love transcends ego, yet it includes the ego in a healed, integrated way. Ego driven self love, however, which stems from the personality, can be conditional, as in, I love myself if I succeed, if I look good, or even feeling like you are wanted. It may seek validation, comparison, or control. It is often rooted in fear or identity structures and may masquerade as empowerment but lacks inner peace. This is not self love, but rather the ego's maintenance dressed in spiritual language. However, the ego itself is not bad, right? It is a construct designed to help us navigate our 3D life. But when it leads, it often creates distortion. When the soul leads, however, the ego can become a loyal follower, helping to ground our purpose, to protect our boundaries, and hold identity without attachment. And so, in healthy self love, we don't destroy the ego, we teach it to bow to the soul. In essence, true self love is soul aligned. It heals the ego rather than feed it. It is a remembering and not a performance. What may look like self love in narcissistic or toxic behavior is actually self importance, self absorption, or ego inflation, often used as a mask to cover deep inner wounding and insecurity. Narcissists often display grandiosity, which is exaggerated self worth, entitlement, which is the belief that they deserve special treatment, manipulation, which is using others to maintain a self image, a lack of empathy, which is the inability to truly connect with the emotions of others, as well as the need for admiration, which is the craving of external validation to fill an inner void. These traits don't stem from genuine self love, but from a fractured sense of self that seeks to feel powerful or worthy through control, through validation or superiority. Most narcissists carry deep shame, abandonment wounds, or a sense of unworthiness they are unable or unwilling to confront. And rather than healing, they build a false persona, a grand self, if you will, to protect the inner child or wounded self from being exposed. So instead of self-love, what we witness is self-protection through illusion. In contrast, true self-love is humble, soft, and rooted in self-awareness. It includes compassion for the self and for others. It does not need constant validation to feel whole, and it allows vulnerability, honesty, and healing. Can narcissists learn true self-love, you may ask? Yes, but only if they choose to awaken, to confront their shadow, and to deconstruct the false self they have built. This often requires deep therapeutic work and a willingness to feel the pain they have long avoided. Self-love is a transmutational force, and when we consciously choose to meet negativity, whether that be internal or something that is projected onto us, with the energy of self-love, we are in fact practicing one of the most powerful and potent forms of spiritual alchemy. Self-love is not just a feeling, it is a field of frequency. When we hold love for ourselves in the presence of judgment, of shame, of psychic attack, of rejection and betrayal, we are alchemizing that energy rather than absorbing or replicating it. It does not mean, though, that we are bypassing pain, but rather that we are witnessing what is being sent or activated, and that we are holding our heart open in response rather than collapse. In this light, we are then choosing not to become what has been directed at us, and instead we are offering ourselves the medicine that the other cannot or will not offer. Although this might seem passive, it is in fact incredibly powerful, for it is spiritual transmutation done from the seat of sovereignty. In classical alchemy, the base metal is not discarded, but rather transformed into gold through application of heat, which is conscious attention. Through the sacred vessel, which is the self in its wholeness, and through the universal solvent, which is love. And so we become the alchemical vessel when we don't run from the pain, when we don't project it outward, or we don't collapse it inward, but instead we meet it with our own holy love, which is powerful, fierce, yet gentle and uncompromising. This is how we transmute shadow into wisdom. This is how we rewire the matrix. This is how we shift timelines, because the echo ends with us. In this way, we honor pain by meeting it with the energy it never received, namely through compassion, through presence, through clarity, boundary, and through light. Love is not weakness. It is the greatest field of refinement in the universe. And so alchemical self-love would look like crying your pain through while holding yourself like a mother would. It would look like saying no with compassion, by not retaliating when attacked, but choosing not to tolerate it either. By giving yourself the gentleness that others denied you, by staying in your center when others try to provoke a collapse, and by remembering who you are when the world forgets. This is graceful defiance. This is divine alchemy. Love of self is not selfish. It is sacred resistance. It is healing inheritance and energetic sovereignty in motion. To love yourself deeply is to stand in a field so radiant that distortion cannot cling to you. That is transmutation. That is gold. That is the holy fire of remembrance. And so, to follow is a self-love invocation, written as a shield of transmutation, a living field of light to surround, to strengthen, and to sanctify you. This is not just words, this is energy made language, and you can either speak it aloud or whisper it into your heart. Use it daily or during moments when you feel the need to reclaim your power, your radiance, or your truth. So let's begin by centering our breath. Place one hand on your belly or solar plexus and the other on your heart. Speak slowly with presence and power. I stand within the alchemy of my own love. I now summon the shield of sacred love. Not love borrowed, not love begged, but the eternal flame of love that rises within me. I call forth the light of my own remembrance. I wrap myself in the luminous veil of self-devotion. No shadow cast upon me shall take root. No thought sent against me shall penetrate this temple. For I am beloved. I am whole. I am the light I longed for. Every wound becomes a window. Every scar becomes a sigil. Every tear becomes a river of gold. I do not shrink. I rise. I do not attack. I alchemize. I do not run. I remember. I am the fire that does not burn, the water that does not drown, the air that cannot be bound, the earth that cannot be moved. With each breath, I return to myself. With each beat, I return to love. With each word, I return to power. I forgive myself for every moment I forgot who I am. I reclaim every part of me lost to shame, to silence or sacrifice. I anoint myself with kindness. I guard myself with grace. No projection may anchor in my field. No distortion may feed upon my light. For I am shielded by self-love. And in this, I become untouchable. Not by hiding, but by radiating. I stand now as a sovereign soul, cloaked in compassion, crowned in truth, and rooted in the divine. And so it is.